it's great to get that win, but by no means should this team believe that they are a finished product overall and that they have arrived in any way, shape, or form. There's plenty of work to do here. There's plenty of work to do. And this win puts them in a situation of, I think, being ahead of the eight ball a little bit, being ahead of the curve, I should say, and being in a situation where, look, you go on the road next week and take care of business. It's not going to be easy. You're 3-0 with 2 home games coming up, and people around Tallahassee and the Seminole family are juiced for those next 2 games at Doak Campbell.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, a.k.a. E-Dub, in the house. So we're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother.
What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. SSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson. I'm here, the Spirit, put into you by NoelGameDay.com. We are live on a beautiful Wednesday morning here in Tallahassee after Florida State took down the LSU Tigers and Brian Kelly in New Orleans. All of us on this show here tonight were in attendance for what a wild weekend it was for Florida State to be in prime time, only game on to go national and viral. And someone that went viral is with us this evening, Jeff Culhane, Florida State's head of radio, announcing. Jeff, it's been a pleasure to have you. I also get to know you. I know we met up at the lunch meeting before the season started. Glad you made it down here safely with the family. Slowly, I know, moving into the house like you just told us in the production meeting. But Jeff, welcome to Hear the Spear. Happy to have you on this evening, man.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Man, my family and I are so excited to be in Tallahassee, and wow, what a first couple of weeks with Florida State football. What a job done by Mike Norvell and his staff, and this team 2-0. And man, memories made in the Big Easy for Seminole fans. That's for sure. That was an amazing weekend.
That was a wild time. That wasn't my first time technically inside that stadium. Supposedly my mom told me that whenever I was in her belly, I was in that stadium, but I don't really count it too much as in all of us being up there in the press box. That is a high press box. Let me just go ahead and tell you that right now. I'm not a big fan of heights. It took my body and eyes a little bit to adjust there for a minute, but that was a very high press box. But the perks of having a credential going down there and seeing that game end and how it was and the fashion it was. I mean, what an incredible experience for Florida State fans that showed up. I mean, guys, that was a great showing by, all of the Seminoles that traveled from across the country and definitely from Tallahassee. We got to see them on our drive over. That was a really impressive showing. And also from the LSU Tigers, both crowds 50-50, but they brought the noise, full of energy. The All-State Sugar Bowl did a fantastic job of hosting both teams, the media. It was definitely a fun time. And obviously leaving the stadium, Florida State coming away with the win just helps it a little bit better there. And Bourbon Street was popping, but it did a lot of damage to me. I'll be honest with you guys. It did a lot of damage to me on Saturday night. It was not my greatest showing on Sunday morning when I woke up, but a great weekend overall. VZ, what were your thoughts on this game? I mean, I know we had our instant reaction, a lot of things popping in and out of our heads. We were forgetting players that had big games, but now it's been a couple of days going back and looking at some of the film. Kind of what are you thinking now, man? This is a 2-0 record for the Florida State Seminoles for the first time in a couple of years.
On one hand, Norvell talked about it today, how the execution could have been better, how they left, 17, 18 points on the board. Obviously you're not going to be perfect in your first game against a real opponent in a season. And the fact that I thought they played pretty well for the majority of the game, and I won't say dominated LSU, but definitely had it under control for a majority of that game. They were really efficient on third downs. I thought Jordan Travis was spectacular, facing the blitz, facing pressure, getting the ball out. There's definitely things to grow on, but definitely things to improve upon, and hopefully some guys can get healthy on this bye week going into Louisville next week.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, the battle at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. And, the defensive line came out, punched LSU in the mouth throughout the game, got multiple tackles for loss, set up some lanes for the linebackers to come in there, which Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach, terrific performance for them for the most part against LSU. They lost Jaden Daniels on a couple contains. He was able to get a couple long runs, but, man, they were filling the gaps and really shutting down LSU's running backs. And on the other side of the football, I think we expected Florida State's offensive line to struggle a little bit more than they actually ended up doing against LSU. They didn't create a whole ton for the running backs. Treshaun Ward had the longest carry of the night at 8 yards, but pass protection-wise, Jordan Travis had a lot of time back there, and he was also able to get creative at some points to make some huge plays on third down. And it just felt like the offense, they didn't really get behind the chains on most of their drives throughout the evening, and it was a very well-called game by Coach Norvell and Coach Atkins.
And the couple times they did get caught behind the chains, you had that one where Jordan Travis was, first and 20, and Jordan Travis runs for 24 yards. Travis was just spectacular all game. And even the couple of sacks that he took in the game, and Florida State only lost, half a yard, a yard. The offensive line was pretty good, all things considered, especially with Bless Harris not playing. Turton goes out to right tackle. I thought they did pretty well.
What goes into a game and preparing for this? Because it's a little bit different from our side of things, Jeff. When we're going in, we're trying to give analysis, and we'll come on here and do a show twice a week. But it's different, though, when you're live having to commentate a game like this. And, we've had William Floyd on here, too, absolute legend, and I love listening to him. And, he came on here and was a great guest and gives great info. But what is it? What is the preparation on your side? Because you're also having to prepare for LSU too and getting down that roster. But obviously, Florida State pretty well, and you're still developing and getting those guys' names down too. And that had to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, man, I've got my charts in here if you kind of want to see what I look at, just to give everybody kind of a view of what it is that I'm looking at, in the Superdome on Sunday nights. And this is just –
Whew. Wow.
A little bit of I got offense and defense on both sides. And by the way, I'm up in my fantasy draft if anybody wants to help me pick somebody in the second round right now. This is LSU.
So are those stats under there? Are there where they're from, high school, measurements, everything like that?
Yeah, stats, nuggets, career stats, trends, high school. Yeah, I mean, as much as, across the board, as much as that I can get in there. Usually you only use, the old adage is 20% of your stuff. Well, when you have a 90-minute rain delay for Duquesne, we used about 98% of it. But Sunday was amazing. It was an amazing night. I would tell you, I've been working on this game. I've been working on our guys for a while. I would say for months. Because it's not just about this team. It's about the program, the history, the traditions, everything across the board, and doing whatever I can to get ingrained as quickly as possible. And then, LSU is a tough study as well because they only had, I think they had 69 guys leave the team at the end of last season. And so that's a completely new look to it here. Who should we take? Wide receiver or running back right now, guys? I took Cooper Kupp for my first pick. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. I got to go running back here with the second pick. What do you think?
Who's the backs?
Who's the backs?
Yeah, I got James Conner, Aaron Jones in Green Bay.
That could be solid because they don't really have receivers this year. I think I'd take Aaron Jones. They don't really have receivers this year.
Yeah, I like Aaron. I like Aaron Jones. I know Saquon's there, but I'm personally not a big fan. I don't.
God, I hate the Packers too. This is gonna suck.
Trust me, I'm a Vikings fan. I'm far from a Packers.
Are you a Vikings fan?
Yeah.
Nice.
My dad grew up in Crookston, so yeah.
Jim just said take Aaron Jones. So Jim, I'm going with you. We
Jim's got Aaron
Jones pick two. So there we go, Jim.
So right now we've got Cooper Kupp. Jeff's got Cooper Kupp because his fantasy draft is just now starting. So he's got Cooper Kupp, and now we've
Yep.
got Aaron Jones as a running back. This
The
will be a
NFL's
lot.
different, right? It's like wide receiver driven now, isn't it? With fantasy drafts, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to really
It
go off
depends on
of
the league.
running
more
back
than
and
anything.
health-wise, too.
The one I
Yeah.
was in, everyone took the running backs early.
I
think part of it is there's just so few true number one running backs now. In the NFL, there's so many running back by committees, like especially in San Fran, Baltimore.
21's got a good question here, and we talked about it on the Mark Rogers show a couple of hours ago. He's bringing up the game calling, and Mike Norvell, and now split off from Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham now over there with Dan Lanning at Oregon. I noted on this throughout the offseason, our preseason coverage. I thought this was going to be a little bit different of an offensive play calling throughout this season with Norvell being solo dolo. I mean, I don't know if he was just doing because he also had five-star Hakeem Williams and a few other big-time targets in attendance for this game, but he was dicing up some explosive plays for some of his guys that are skilled. You saw in Terry Wilson bring in those 2 touchdowns, one of them being an incredible grab. But I like this now. I mean, you no longer have Kenny Dillingham. Those two kind of sharing duties with game prep, play calling, all that kind of stuff. It's now solely focused on the shoulders of Norvell. And I thought this game, other than a few mistakes, this was a very pretty called game. And you got to give your hat tip off to Jordan Travis for putting these players in positions to make these plays. Some of them not able to come down with grabs. I know there was a few there. You lose out on a touchdown with Johnny Wilson. I know there was a Cam McDonald, a beautiful throw there. That was an NFL type throw, slicing it down. The second part of that defense into the secondary. That was a great throw by Jordan Travis. Norvell was putting guys in a position to make plays, and I thought this was a really pretty play calling by Norvell on Sunday night.
I agree, and I mean you can even go to the call in the fourth quarter, the pitch to Treshaun Ward on the goal line on that final offensive drive for Florida State, wherever he fumbled it and LSU picked it up. If you watch the beginning of the fourth quarter when FSU goes down and gets that final touchdown on the short run from DJ Lundy, they run a similar concept where they pitch out to the right to Lawrence Toafili. They seal it perfectly on the edge, and Toafili is able to get about 8. You go back and look at the one where they pitched it toward on the goal line. They have that set up again. They've got the seal ready to go, but it just seemed like the pitch wasn't exactly clean. Ward wasn't able to handle it. If he grabs it, he's walking in the end zone on the right side. So I thought it was a really good game from Norvell. They did a great job of setting up the pass through the running game, even though the running backs weren't successful really throughout the entire game. Only able to get a long run of 8 yards from Treshaun Ward. And then in the passing game, very creative, mixing the tight ends a little bit. Terry Wilson was able to make some good plays. Outside of a couple drops, very clean night on offense for Florida State.
Yeah, I thought that was something that I think Florida State moving forward with Mike Norvell, it's going to be fun to watch this offense because you're putting guys in position to make some big time plays, and some of them came down with it. And I thought in Terry Wilson, he's not talked about a ton. We get to go to all these practices, Jeff, which is really a nice thing from Coach Norvell, which we're super appreciative. We get to see these guys grow and get better. But someone we didn't talk about a ton is Terry Wilson. Just because he's a veteran guy, he's been on this squad for a while. You got in the new transfers, new guys in the room. Those are the guys that were highly talked about. But on Terry Wilson, I mean, being able to call a play like that whenever, obviously, you've got the trickery play, which you called, and then you've got the one-handed grab. Does that not just give you it just gives you free reign to do kind of whatever you want and give the Seminole fans what they like?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a 6-year guy that everyone's been talking about the transfers, and rightly so. I mean, look, you got great players in Micah Pittman and Johnny Wilson, Deuce Spann. We haven't even seen Winston Wright yet, unfortunately, with the car accident last spring. I mean, he's another guy. I talked to my West Virginia people, and that's one of the guys they hate that left because of what the year he had a year ago with Neil Brown and that crew there. And so, look, I think that it's a great mix. And you take a look at the mix of lengthy drives so far this season, coupled with creativity in the play calling. Everybody's going to hang on the end of the game because of the drop pitch and the decision to go for it on 4th and 2 inside the 10. I like it because It tells my guys in a close game that we're going for the throat on national TV against an LSU team on the road. And it gives your guys confidence, from your play caller and head coach early in the season. Everybody talks about the pitch, and look, that's a pretty simple play. I mean, I think Trayshawn Ward would tell you 10 times out of 10 he's going to hang on to that thing. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand what people are saying, but ultimately that's a pretty simple play to execute. It was just a situation where I think Trayshawn got excited and took his eye off the football for a split second. And look, talk about creativity. I mean, how about an end around flea flicker to Pokey Wilson? Micah Pittman throws a backside block to keep Jordan clean, and then getting a middle linebacker involved in goal line situations and handing DJ Lundy the football for 6 points, right? And so there's a lot of creativity in there, and I believe the stat I saw on social media today was Florida State already has 6 drives of 11 plays or more on offense this season. That ties the total for all of last year, and in 2020 there were 11 drives of 11 plays or more. And so you're looking at an offense that is going away from, well, we can only hit the big play. Now you're sustaining drives and watching this offense wear down opposing defenses. This was a game where I think everybody would say, I'm seeing the comments right here, this could have been 31-10 or 34-13. And I think there's a positive that comes out of this where you look at it and you go, hey, didn't play a perfect brand of football and still won against a really quality caliber opponent. There's some teachable moments here for this team to get better, which is exciting.
There is.
And to your point about 11 plays or more, there's 3 of them against LSU, 2 of 14 plays and another of 12. All 3 ended in touchdowns. Just really methodical drives. And like I mentioned earlier, they were just killing it on third downs, being able to identify the pressure, get it out to the safe option. We're finally starting to see some of the stuff Norvell ran in Memphis, using multiple backs, using multiple receivers, using the tight ends. And Travis, like I said, it's been spectacular. If he could keep playing like he did against LSU, he's going to have a really, really good season.
I think that's a great start for a team that's going to start going on the road now. They'll go to Louisville next weekend, who got smoked by Syracuse, which was definitely a surprise to all of us. But just going off of his demeanor, I mean, being down there on the field for warm-ups and, that LSU crowd, the student section was right there. I mean, they were saying some not so nice things to Jordan Travis. It's football. That's just what's going to happen. When you sign up to play football, you're going to have some guys chirping in your head there. But I just love the demeanor from I saw from Jordan Travis. It's different from last year and the whole 180 from 2 years ago. This guy is managing the game, and it fit the game from Norvell's play calling to Jordan Travis. They wanted to take time off of that clock because they felt pretty good about their drives getting down there and being able to score. And I got to get a nice hat tip to also Coach Tokars. This is his first year being a quarterback's coach, and looking at the development that we've seen from Jordan Travis as a game manager and utilizing his skill to stay looking downfield. Usually he'll pull up in that pocket and he's running off. Last year he would have done that early part in that season. He's staying in that pocket as long as he can, looking down the field, trying to find a target to get some yards down the field. So it's just a nice upgrade we've seen from Jordan Travis. Oh, we've got a guest with Jeff now. We've got a guest. Who is this?
Say hello to Alexander Culhane making his debut on the pod here.
Hey, Alexander.
Alexander.
Hello.
There you go.
Just like Whit once said, radio call was awesome. Which part of the game? Obviously, that last call is going to be your most exciting part so far. But what kind of gave you the chills throughout that game? Because I feel like there was some multiple times throughout that game where I feel like there was some goosebumps coming from Florida State fans in those stands.
Yeah, no, I look, I really appreciate everybody reaching out on social media, and everybody's been so kind and welcoming. And, I know change is hard, right? I mean, Gene Deckerhoff is the GOAT. He's a legend. I mean, there's no way to fill that man's shoes in any way, shape, or form. He's such an amazing broadcaster, an even better person. And he and his wife, Ann, and their family have been so great to me. And Whit, I appreciate the kind words. And someone earlier said, hey, how do we listen back? And there's actually, if you go to Seminoles.com, you go to the multimedia and play past events tab. There's James with the question there. Yeah, Seminoles.com, multimedia, and I believe it's, listen live for free and then play past events. We need to make that a little bit easier. I feel like, as I say it out loud right now to everybody. But it's been a blast, and a few different moments. Look, I thought the second play of the game was massive. Of all the plays in that game that we talk about, the second play of the game after Jaden Daniels' 25-yard run, the 15-yard penalty, and then the ball in the back in the end zone to Keishawn Boutte, where he had it and Akeem Dent knocked it away. If they score a touchdown to Boutte on the second play of the game, that place is loose, and all of a sudden Keishawn Boutte's involved and he's a part of the game. And who knows what it looks like after that. I thought that was a massive play early in the contest. We're not talking about enough right now. The third down conversions were amazing. I believe 4 of Jordan's first 6 completions were on third down in the game. And one of the drives that resulted in a touchdown, Jordan converted 4 third downs, I believe, later on in the contest as well. So, obviously the end of the game was unbelievable, but the one-handed catch by Pokey Wilson cannot be talked about enough. I mean, first of all, Jordan gets absolutely smacked by Ali Gay with a Superman, spear to the chin from Gay. Should keep him out for 3 games, quite honestly, as ridiculous as that was. And then Pokey being PI'd and still coming down with it. That one was a goosebump moment for me with everything that happened and that was involved.
It was wild to see Ontario Wilson come down with that grab. I mean, you look at him and a guy that we didn't get to see play last week, and he comes in and has this presence and the way that they were able to get down the field with him and get these touchdowns. I mean, that was a really impressive guy on the field and someone that maybe LSU wasn't maybe preparing enough for. And that's understandable because now you've got a whole wide receiver room where Florida State is performing a lot better in the passing game and Jordan Travis dialing up some special plays and finding Micah Pittman in the middle of nowhere. Or you got Johnny Wilson diving for a catch there of I don't know what you call it, a hop and throw from J-Trav getting out of the pocket.
I think it's interesting with this offense. It's close to being really dynamic. I mean, think about some of the plays in the first 2 games where, thank you, Carol, for the kind words. I really appreciate that. We've seen a few drops. I mean, this wide receiving core, as good as they've been, Johnny's dropped legitimately 2 touchdowns. One his first opportunity versus Duquesne, and then in the back corner of the end zone. When he gets that reined in, I mean, he's already, we know, a special player. Micah Pittman's just starting to really scratch the surface and get ingrained. Now you got Pokey Wilson healthy and coming out and doing some great things. Cam McDonald made 2 massive catches on third down and then had the one, Logan, that you talked about where Jordan made an NFL throw and he heard the steps coming from his right with a safety bearing down and he just didn't make the play. This is an offense in a group that's just scratching the surface overall. And I know everybody wants, we're a microwave society. Everybody wants this thing to be working perfectly now. It's a group that's got really a high potential of being pretty special and pretty spectacular. 1 with the talent, 2 with the depth, and 3 with Mike Norvell calling plays with his offensive staff's collaboration and his creativity. I'm really excited to see what's going to come here.
Especially once you get Winston right back, you unlock the potential more of Deuce Spann. Get Ja'Kai Douglas back hopefully soon. There's still a ton of potential in that wide receiver room that's just going to keep growing. And the thing with Pittman that I love, he's not willing to get dirty. We saw that blindside block on that reverse. We saw it last week against Duquesne. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the team some yards.
And he had some big catches on third down.
Yeah, he did. That one coming across the middle where he just slithers through a few defenders to get the first. That was a good play.
Very good navigator. He's got good eyes like a running back, and that's the way I see Jordan Travis too. He understands where the blocks are coming, and he leads well going down the field. On the defensive side of things, Jeff, I think you're going to be calling a lot of sacks with this guy's name, Jared Verse, for the rest of the season going into next year too. Someone who we got to see a lot of in the spring. I was extremely high. I already got my stuff answered in the spring. I knew this guy was going to be a starter. And now to see him performing at this level against SEC-type talent and absolutely bullying. I mean, I understand you got a true freshman there that you're putting there at tackle against Jared. I I got to say, I was even more impressed after that because I thought it'd be a good even battle there, but Jared showed us right, first blank national television, that he's here to play FBS football, and he's coming for your head. And he played well, and I think you've got a lot of sacks to call for a lot of games throughout his career.
Yeah, drop that beat, Jared Verse. Let's go. Come on, play that, sing that sweet, sweet quarterback sack song, baby. Let's go. He's, you don't want to jump ahead too far, but he's matching the expectations early in the season. And so I saw somebody ask on here, did we see the 50, holding calls that they missed on Verse? I mean, he was coming around, and it's tough when you have, there it is from Nick. It's tough when you have a guy, quarterback, that moves, because I think it moves the referees and officials' eyes as well with the play. They don't get, as much of that going on. And it's going to be big next Friday with Malik Cunningham as well. I mean, we all know, and Adam Fuller knows, he made it pretty clear Monday night during the coaches show that we got to do much better than what we have against Malik Cunningham over the last 2 years. It has not been, up to standards, up to expectations. And so Jared Verse is a guy that I actually saw. I think I told you guys this. I've told this story. He was in the Fargo Dome at my previous stop a year ago with UAlbany, and I watched him play against North Dakota State. And he stood out obviously then against an NDSU group that had NFL guys at both tackle spots at the FCS level, and so he's the real deal. Now he's got some film out on him. People are aware of him. Now he's going to get a lot of attention, right? I mean, there's not going to be true freshman left tackles coming his way for the most part, I don't think, the rest of the season. And that's not his fault. I mean, he's going to play against whoever they line up against him, right? So he's got everything physically. He's a very confident young man. I love his demeanor. I love the way he goes out and plays the game and plays with excitement and plays with energy and enthusiasm. He is going to be a fan favorite. There's no question.
And as much as Logan was talking him up this offseason, I don't think any of us saw 9 quarterback pressures coming from him this game against LSU. Right. I mean, he was just living in the backfield, and, maybe he should have gotten a holding call here or there. He was super impressive. And this was my first time seeing him in person. I live in Charlotte, so I don't get the chance to see him. Standing next to him on the field, he's just massive.
Yeah.
Just absolutely massive. I don't know how he was an FCS talent to begin with, because he's going to be insane for Florida State all season.
Yeah, I tried to limit the hype a little bit because Logan's done a lot of comparing him to Jermaine Johnson. And I just tried to lay the facts on the table. There's a guy making a transition from the FCS to the FBS, and he's not a graduate transfer coming in like Jermaine Johnson is. But I don't think we can limit the hype any longer. I mean, he just came out there and shined against LSU, dominated both of those tackles. It didn't matter if it was the true freshman on the left side or the more experienced guy on the right side. He was getting after him all night. As you said, Austin, nine quarterback pressures. He came away with 2 sacks. If you go back and watch that game, he was 2 inches away from coming away with maybe 4 or 5. I mean, Jared was right on Jaden Daniels' back a couple times, and a really standout performance from him. And now you're looking at 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss already in the first 2 games for Florida State. It's going to be exciting to watch because I think this is just the beginning for him and the rest of those defensive ends as they continue to gain more experience at this level.
Go on the offensive side real quick. I didn't want to forget this. You had DJ Lundy go in and score a touchdown, a fellow fullback with William Floyd. What was his reaction like, Jeff, to have that touchdown right there? Because we had seen it in practices. We can't ever disclose about what's going on in practice, and we try to keep away from that. But we got to see it, and Norvell give it a shot there with Lundy taking it in for 6. I wonder what William Floyd's reaction was there.
He called out the play. He said, "It looks like a little 35 belly to me." And then he went on to say, "It's on and popping here in the Superdome." So he was excited. He was fired up. But yeah, give the ball to DJ Lundy inside. Like you talked about, and I said it on the broadcast, you don't see a ton of under center work from this team. A lot of it's in the shotgun. So, that's a different wrinkle. It's a little thing, But that's a different wrinkle where Jordan Travis lines up under center. You think, oh my God, he's going to sneak it. What are they going to do? All of a sudden it puts the defense on their heels a little bit. And I guarantee you there are some more options out of that are in that playbook with that look right there that I think is pretty darn cool. So, yeah, pretty special when you see a defensive guy line up at fullback and get a tutty in the Superdome, right? I mean, that doesn't happen in this day and age of football anymore. That was a fun thing to watch.
Going over to some of his teammates in that position group, you got to see Deloach have another really impressive game like we saw against Duquesne. And then you've got Tatum Bethune, who has already, gotten into this system, and it has seemed seamless. He just looks like he fits well. And I got to give props to Randy Shannon because it's a little bit of different coaching than what you had with Chris Marv last year, the previous couple of years with Chris Marv. Randy Shannon kind of lets them learn on their own at some points. Yeah, he'll get in your ear a few times, but he's going to let you learn, and you'll learn quick with him. And it seems like that linebacker room you're starting to see some really nice improvements, and you're seeing some big-time plays being made. I mean, you look at Tatum Bethune going east and west. I mean, reading that backfield perfectly. Still, there's some slip-ups here and there, but the positives to take away from this is this room continues to improve, and it's going to be fun watching this linebacker continue to grow. And you've also got the touchdown man himself, DJ Lundy, back there too, who has had a big-time fall camp, and those three guys, as long as things stay healthy there, you feel really good heading throughout the rest of the season, going against some teams that have some good running backs. I'm thinking immediately of Will Shipley over there at Clemson that absolutely dominated Florida State last year in Death Valley. These linebackers are going to have to continue to make strides. But, a big game out of Bethune, Deloach, and Lundy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tatum's a dude. I mean, just look at his numbers at Central Florida. That's a quality program with, the American that's not that far off of the top tier of that conference. I mean, that's just me being honest. And so he's an amazing talent. I think you have, promoting Randy Shannon as an assistant defensive coordinator and linebackers coach, being a full-time guy as far as a position group goes. The guy can coach. I mean, he knows what he's doing, obviously. And so Bethune is a huge portal pickup. Kalen Deloach is extremely athletic and flying around. You win this game with Amari Gaynor hurt as well. It's another thing we haven't talked about a lot. I mean, this is a guy who's played a ton of football for Florida State and has done some tremendous things during his career at FSU. And so you got to have guys that can move. I mean, this is a day, an era in college football where you don't have to be 6'3", 230, 240 and be a thumper. You got to move and play in space. And these guys that have been brought in, have been developed, and some of the portal pickups as well, these are all fitting that blueprint defensively under Adam Fuller. And you're going to get another challenge again with Malik Cunningham next Friday night with a Louisville team that, speaking to UCF, they go on the road. They've looked awful at Syracuse. I'm sure they'll bounce back. There's a chance they could be 0-2 coming in for their home opener and ACC opener next Friday night.
Yeah, before letting you go, Jeff, because I know the draft. What are you on number 3 yet? Have you picked number 3 yet?
Yeah, give me your guys' thoughts on this here. Okay, I got 2 running backs, 2 receivers picked in a flex. Okay, running backs are Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs in Vegas.
Okay.
Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin in Washington.
Yep.
And I took Jerry Jeudy as my flex in Denver over DK Metcalf because I think Russell Wilson's going to get him the ball better than whoever Seattle has. What do you think? How am I doing?
Yeah, I like the Jeudy pick. They're gonna toss it in Denver this year.
Yeah, all right.
They are. I like that one. But before we let you go, Jeff, because we got another early morning tomorrow with a practice and Mike Norvell hitting the field on Thursday. A team that's looking to respond after today's practice. Mike Norvell not so pleased with it. On that kind of topic, we've seen this team do this, and Mike Norvell brought it up today in the press conference afterwards that, they got close to beating Notre Dame last year. They went in overtime, close game, but then they go, on a streak there of losing 3 more games in a row. This is now going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on how this team has matured since that last season, on if they can respond here. Who do you think, and this locker room is going to have to be a leader that stands out and keeps these guys on track? Because we got to hear some good things from Akeem Dent, and he is fine with it being 2-0, but he's not satisfied one bit, and he showed that. His demeanor was like that, and he also was calling out his teammates that they need to respond. I mean, this was a sluggish practice on Wednesday, and his coach said it. Who do you think needs to stand out here, and do you think this team can mature and to responding and being better?
Yeah, I think there's a number of guys you have here. Obviously, Jordan Travis is a name that comes to mind right away. Fabian Lovett is another one of those names that comes to mind right away. Hopefully, he's doing all right from a physicality standpoint, getting dinged up at the end of the game against LSU. I think Dylan Gibbons is another guy up front along the offensive line that has a lot, has earned the respect as a second-year player with the type of person that he is and the type of player that he is, certainly as well. So, Tatum Bethune is a guy that has also, I think, emerged as a leader within this group and within this defense. There's no question about it. So, I think the big thing is Mike Norvell understands, what he's trying to guard against here. And I don't know if he brought it up today with you guys in the media or not, but I think he mentioned back in 2020 after beating North Carolina, the number 5 ranked Tar Heels, they got just trounced by Louisville a week later. I mean, the connection there is obviously jumps out the page at you. And so, you've won 2 games. You haven't played perfectly in both by any means. And so it's great to get that win, but by no means should this team believe that they are a finished product overall and that they have arrived in any way, shape, or form. There's plenty of work to do here. There's plenty of work to do. And this win puts them in a situation of, I think, being ahead of the 8 ball a little bit, being ahead of the curve, I should say. And being in a situation where, look, you go on the road next week and take care of business. It's not going to be easy. You're 3-0 with 2 home games coming up, and people around Tallahassee and the Seminole family are juiced for those next 2 games at Doak Campbell. So, you just got to kind of handle the success with a level of understanding that, yes, we won. Yes, let's enjoy this, but it's over now. Now we got to move on, and now we got to go win the next one. And so I know Coach talked about being an average practice today. I have no doubt that these leaders, this group's going to get them bounce back and make them get their situation where they need to go.
Yep, I agree. And this happened a little bit not a lot in fall camp. This happened last year. We'll see if there's a bounce back there where tomorrow things get more dialed in. And, like you said, Coach Norvell, I think this was the most energized practice he had since the fall by far. Very keeping everybody accountable, and that's just what you get from Coach Norvell in a practice. I'm just glad that I'm not in the pads, Jeff. I'm glad I'm not out there. I'm not in the 100-degree heat.
I was standing there not moving in a polo and a pair of slacks. I had to go in the AC watching those guys today.
Yep, exactly. Well, Jeff, I do appreciate you. I doubt this will be the last time we'll have you on here. Always a good time to catch up during practices, and I just want to give a big time shout out to you. A beautifully called game. I know the fan base has loved and welcomed you here into Tallahassee. And so best of luck too with transitioning, moving into the house and everything, and with the fantasy draft going on. And we'll see you in the morning. Appreciate you, Jeff.
Sounds good. Logan, Austin, Dustin, appreciate you guys. And again, thank you so much to everyone. You guys have been just fantastic, very welcoming. I'm glad that Sunday night ended in a positive fashion for the Noles, and I hope that we did that moment the justice that you all thought it deserved. So appreciate you guys. Can't wait to come back on again sometime down the road. Go Noles.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think FSU fans are automatically going to start liking Jeff no matter what he calls if they keep the streak going and the winning streak going. I think it doesn't matter what he could say. As long as wins keep coming, Jeff might be the good luck coming down from North Dakota State, who obviously has a very nice program up there up north. So might be bringing that good juju down here to Tallahassee. But
so far,
so good. So far, so good. But we'll definitely have Jeff on maybe throughout the season. It's always great to catch up with him. Also a big Game of Thrones guy. So, it clicks pretty well. This, I kind of want to go back to the rest of this game real quick. We talked about Jared Verse. We talked about the linebackers. I want to talk about these DBs. Did anybody hear about Renardo Green in this game, except for his big hit?
I was
Anybody
going to say, well, yeah, at one point when he planted Jaden Daniels through the turf.
Yep.
But no, it was a quiet night in coverage for Renardo, which is good when you're a defensive back.
Yeah, 2 points on Green. When I was writing my recap, I did not realize he led the team in tackles until I looked at the stats. He led the team with 8 tackles. And then second, he followed Boutte a lot more than I thought he would. He would follow him to the slot. He would follow him back outside wide. I'd like to see how many snaps exactly he played against Boutte. But Boutte was out of that game pretty early on. Didn't see many targets. When he did get targeted, he was pretty upset. Renardo Green was in his head. It wasn't as much of rotating DBs on the Boutte as we thought. It was a lot of number 8.
And I will have to look on that final drive, but I know at least the second to last catch that Boutte had, one of 2 catches he had on the entire night, was man coverage from Amorion Cooper, where they brought Boutte in motion to the opposite side of the field, and Amorion wasn't able to get there in time, and they threw it out to him on that 4th down. They were able to get the conversion. But I'll have to check the other one. So Renardo Green might have not allowed a catch from Boutte all night. I mean, we talked about LSU's receiving core coming into this game, and I mentioned I thought it was crucial. Florida State's receivers against LSU's receivers, and you look at the talent that LSU had coming back, 5 guys that had 350 or more yards last year. I thought there was going to be some big plays from the Tigers through the air, and that didn't really happen. It was very impressive the way that they shut those guys down, especially Boutte, because like Jeff said whenever he got on here, they had a chance to get him in a rhythm early in the end zone, and Akeem Dent came over there and laid a lick on him, and Dent got him another time in that second half, and man, Boutte did not like it.
And we need to go back, because we did this last week, but we're kind of messing it up. It's Booty. That's what Booty said in his interview.
I'm going Boutte. So
I refuse.
We're gonna go.
I'm not saying Booty. I'm not saying
a booty type game. I don't know about that. That seems like a pretty easy way to go with that.
It's just funny. Like there's that whole post going around before the game, like that fake Norvell post saying, "we're not scared of the receivers in D line." We weren't. the receivers really didn't do much, partially because of the pass rush, and it was more Jaden Daniels hurting us with his legs until that last drive. And then the offensive line, for the most part, handled their defensive line. Obviously, with Mason Smith going down with that ACL injury, played a part in that. Quick recoveries to him, hopefully. But the 2 parts we were most worried about, especially with Boutte wearing that famed LSU 7 that everybody's wearing, Pat Peterson, Leonard Fournette.
Mm-hmm.
They did a good job on him.
Yeah, no, I thought that play by Akeem Dent was special, and I want to go through a thing here, and I saw some people giving Adam Fuller a hard time. That's just kind of like the regular thing to do. Now, let's go to Ryan Fitzgerald. We're gonna do some criticism here for a little bit, because can't always be positive. That's got to be fixed. I mean, we're in a dome. Those kind of things. You're putting your defense in a rough spot, and that's one thing I need to note there for Adam Fuller. That defense was already starting off in a rough spot there, and they were still able to do a good job against LSU and Jaden Daniels and do as much as they could to stop that offense, and it worked well. Definitely when you have that pass rush coming, but that's one thing on special teams that Florida State has got to fix there. I think it's all mental. Ryan had a phenomenal first game against Duquesne, kicking very well. Coach Papp really pleased with his performance, but I don't know. I think it's all a mental thing with Ryan. We know that he's got the potential there and the talent, but just something slipped up there. But I thought that was worth noting that, Adam Fuller still with the extra yardage that LSU was able to have on those drives, they were still able to take care of business and not really allow LSU to do much until that late, that late fourth quarter.
It was nerves, in my opinion. You look at last year, Ryan Fitzgerald was solely the place kicker for Florida State, and they had Parker Grothhouse handle the majority of the kickoff duties. So this was really Fitzgerald's first time, big environment, big game against LSU, a big stage, and I think it just got the most of him early on, and he hit that first one out of bounds, pushed the field goal. You go back and look at it. I mean, man, the field goal was very close. It was about a foot to the right. He almost hit that. And then, he pushes the other kickoff out of bounds as well. So, yeah, you definitely want to see him bounce back against Louisville and hopefully getting a little bit of a rhythm here as FSU starts to approach the first third of the season. We'll see how it goes. But outside of that, and maybe the return units, special teams for Florida State have been amazing the first 2 games. You look at the kickoff coverage unit, LSU 2 kickoff returns on Sunday night, only 31 yards. Florida State was dropping them back, and then they had the one they dropped LSU at, I think, the 18-yard line, and of course Akeem Dent gets the questionable roughing the passer penalty on the next play, and then you get the pass interference penalty on Jamie Robinson that kind of pushed LSU for points. But the kickoff coverage team, Wyatt Rector, Brendan Gant in particular, did a very good job. The punt team going down there, Rector got as close as legally possible to Malik Neighbors, and I think it messed with his concentration, causing him to drop it. Rector falls right on top of it. And the other one, Brendan Gant, just flying down there, hustling. And when you hustle, sometimes good things happen. Ball bounces right into his lap, into his hands, and he walks into the end zone whenever Neighbors muffs it. Unfortunately, NCAA rules don't allow you to return a muffed punt, which I don't frankly understand, but all right. So the special team, and then you get the block kicks as well off that left side. The special teams have been great for Florida State, and we talked about a little bit before, but those live special teams reps that Florida State did during the preseason, the very first time that they've done it under Mike Norvell, seemed to have paid off through the first 2 games.
I tweeted it during the game. Wyatt Rector was on demon mode all game. Between that kind of forced muff punt, he drew the unsportsmanlike penalty late in the first quarter, where
that was nice.
The guy pushed it back, and of course the second guy always gets called. But Rector was just doing stuff like that all night, just trying to get in people's heads, rubbing people. It was pretty funny, honestly. And I'm glad the special teams is finally doing something. That was something Norvell was big on when he came to Tallahassee. He was going to have a good special teams unit. And the first 2 years were kind of rough. Let's not beat around the bush, but hopefully they can keep it up. I saw earlier, I think PFF has us first in special teams right now through 2 games.
And I'll be honest. Go. You can finish.
I was just saying, if we're first with the way the kickoffs have looked so far, with Fitzgerald kicking 2 out of bounds and the missed field goal, gotta like where you're at.
I think it just shows how much this team is buying in to what Norvell is doing at Florida State, because they weren't this committed on special teams the first 2 years. And look at the guys that are doing it. Wyatt Rector, converted quarterback. He started his college career playing quarterback at Western Michigan, transferred to Florida State to play quarterback. Norvell comes in. They convert him to tight end. Now this guy's out there on special teams, recovering fumbles, going down on kickoffs, knocking people out. You got Brendan Gant, a former 4-star defensive back, converted to linebacker, looked like a last-ditch effort for him at Florida State. And he's out there doing the same thing, hustling down on the kickoffs, recovering the muffed punt, where he's just hustling to be in the right position to make a play if it's possible. I think it's impressive that you've got these guys who, things didn't go exactly how they were expecting whenever they arrived at Florida State, but they fought through the adversity and they're figuring out a way to still make an impact with the Seminoles.
Yeah, no. One thing, and I promise I'm not just all pro Adam Fuller here and starting his campaign to be next president, but I do want to go on to one of the drives, though, where Jamie Robinson had that was bogus PI. Both guys were going at it, ruined that drive. And then I think there was flags all over the place in LSU's favor. We all were sitting up there in the press box like, what? Not so sure about that. And that's what was able to allow LSU to get down there and put points on the board. But if that Jamie Robinson flag doesn't happen and that PI call, which that's just 2 good players going at it. You just let that happen. But I think refs were going to go ahead and allow LSU to get down there on the field a little bit and get this crowd going. But that was just a really ugly drive there on the refs calling, in my opinion. That allowed LSU to score. LSU
had 4 scoring drives, and 2 of them had, I think, 30 penalty yards, or at least 25 penalty yards. That first drive, had the late hit out of bounds. Was that the one with the PI, or was that something else?
Whenever James,
I don't know.
The PI was it was in the third quarter.
That's right. The first one you had to kick off out of bounds, they started the 35, and then they had to late hit. That's what it was.
And then you had another kickoff out of bounds later on as well that got them in good field position.
Yeah. So, most of those penalties were 50-50, I thought, on the PI side. Even though there was some that arguably could have been called and weren't, and there were some that were called that shouldn't have been. Thought there was a lot of hand fighting between the receivers and DBs on both sides, especially with that Micah Pittman one on 4th and 2, corner of the end zone. Just a lot of hand fighting in general. I thought it was a good no call. Honestly, they were both hand fighting, but I could have seen it gone as a DPI.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I looked at the replay earlier today, and I mean, Sage Ryan grabbing Pittman's hand as he's trying to make that extension for the catch. So close.
It's one of those that could have gone either way. It really is. If they could clean some of those up, especially those really longer penalties, and if Fitzgerald can actually kick because he's a kicker, things should be all right.
So can we talk? We're talking about officiating and these flags. Can we talk about the call at the end? LSU, Jaden Daniels throws to Mason Taylor. He's running to the right side of the field. It looks like the refs call him out of bounds when he's tackled around the 1 yard line, but they go back and look at the replay, and he's actually tackled inbounds with
and it's crazy because none of us even thought none of us even questioned that he got out of bounds. Like, okay, they got out of bounds at the 1 or 2 yard line. Somehow, someone told Norvell, because I'm pretty sure Norvell challenged it, right?
Yep.
I was down there. Norvell, I think first off the staff was telling Norvell, hey, let's first check at that time if there's actually 1 second left. So that allowed then the refs to close everything off, and then we're going to stop it at 1 second. So that already puts LSU in a way better spot than what if they were going live like that. You either had to have a play call ready, or you're just shooting it because you obviously can't spike the ball. Shout out to Miami and Tyler Van Dyke. But that already kind of screwed up everything because I did see Mike Norvell is right there in the end zone watching all. Mike's going out there. He's talking to the refs. Is there really 1 second left? What's going on here? And then he starts going to the red flag, the challenge. And then it turns into a 20-minute or so conversation from refs and everything. It felt long.
It was about 10 minutes, I think. Because there's a lot of things they got to look at on the review. A, did he actually get out of bounds? B, is the time right? And then C, what do we actually call since he was in bounds? I think if there's 10 seconds on the clock, I think it's one of those start the whistle or start the clock on my whistle. But with it being 1 second left, I don't think we've ever seen that in college football, where a review happens and it comes back. It's like, oh yeah, you're actually in bounds with 1 second left, but it was a first down, so technically the clock's supposed to stop. I don't think we've ever seen that, honestly. And the officials are trying to make a call on how they're supposed to play it. Truthfully, it should have been, I think, clock starts on the whistle. But, what can you do?
Yeah, so the rule is after a first down, the clock stops while the chains are set. When the chains are set and the referee blows the whistle, the clock runs. ESPN, they agreed too. When looking back at the replay, you could see Mason Taylor's knee was down in bounds, so the ESPN rules expert believed that the clock would start on the snap. What the ref on the field said, verbatim, after reviewing the play, the runner was down in bounds for a first down. He said, by rule, the clock will stop. LSU will have time for one play.
It's interesting that he said they will have time for one play,
but by rule.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
and someone's commenting, but coach called a timeout. He only called a timeout. Yeah, he didn't call timeout until after they had already said they will have time to run one play.
And since Florida State challenged the play and it was successful, they got their timeout. So that was not a timeout scenario.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. I don't think we've ever seen this scenario. I really don't think we have, and I think it could have been called better. But of course, we're a little bit biased.
But at the same time, if it does go that way and they say the game's over or LSU's not able to get the snap off, people would be LSU side in particular would be furious about the game.
I get it.
And at least, it got to play out and Florida State won it fair and square, I guess.
It's also one of those, like, if they'd actually called him inbounds originally, they don't have any timeouts. Can they really get up there in 1 second? There's no chance. There's no chance.
After a long drive there, guys getting worn out, offensive linemen, you're talking 315-pound guys getting down there and getting set. Something ain't working. But what an extra amount of time. To me, it felt like 20 minutes, man. I was sitting there. I was like, golly, man. because we saw Norvell in that offense. They're running out that time, so you got to see ABC make sure they got all their commercials in. So hopefully they got all their money worth it. It seemed like the ratings did pretty good. The number 2 game of the weekend, right behind Notre Dame and Ohio State. I think it's 6.9 million. I don't know.
And I think
big-time numbers, though.
I think it's the 3rd highest Sunday college football game ever for a kickoff weekend.
Yep.
I think I saw that.
Yep. It was.
Blockbuster boys are back.
Logo hits different. But yeah, let's get out of the LSU game. We also did an instant reaction from inside of the stadium that night. So if you guys want to go check out that, that's just a 20-minute
low key one of my
reaction.
favorite podcasts we've ever done.
And we got to be out there on the field.
Like 7 minutes. Yeah.
We got to be out there on the field there. And, we got VZ going over to the end zone where Ontario Wilson brought in that one-handed grab. And
then you're on the flea flicker side. I thought it was cool that we were able to do that, honestly.
The Wi-Fi worked, everything. Shout out to the Caesars Dome, which I got to say, too, from watching Saints games and everything, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this stadium. But inside of it, that place is effing massive. I mean, that is a huge stadium. And I think it's because that field is gigantic, not just only in your painted sides, but outside of it on the sidelines, it is just huge, man. That is an impressive stadium. But
we got there super early. I think we were there, 3.5 hours before kickoff. Yeah. And the first thing we did was walk on the field just to get a sense of everything. And that's a breathtaking place, just looking around. And I don't know a good way to describe it, how the seats are layered. It's just, it looks so flat, but it goes so high. I don't know a good way to describe it. I really don't. It really feels like there would be 100,000 people in there, but 68,000.
Mm-hmm.
Just a really, really impressive venue.
And shout out to both fan bases. Both showed up loud as ever. I know the people watching on TV said that the war chant was blasting, so I guess ABC did a good job of putting some mics near the marching chiefs, but I don't think they really needed it too much. They were loud on their own. So a great showing from Florida State's fan base, LSU's, and the Marching Chiefs did what they always do and travel well and put on a phenomenal performance. Shout out to them. And Big 8 over there. Shout out to my dad. Let's get out of this and let's move over to just some thoughts. We're not going to dive into Louisville as we'll go through the game preview next week. But overall thoughts, Louisville gets stomped by Syracuse, which I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. A lot of high expectations from Lake Cunningham coming into this season. Didn't seem like a good day overall for them on offense. Let's see how this team responds, guys. I mean, like we just said, that was a primetime matchup. You get the win against LSU, booyah. But, now they got to prepare for Louisville next Friday night. I don't know if Florida State's ever going to play on a regular Saturday with some other teams, but they're going to play on Friday night up there in Louisville. They'll get their first true test of a road game at at another university. I think we're going to find out how mature this team really is.
Yeah, I mean, like Norvell said today after practice, it's harder to respond from the positives than the negatives. It's just kind of human emotion. So now for the first time in his tenure at Florida State, Seminoles have gotten off to a good start. Limped off to 1-3 in 2020, 0-4 last year. Now you're 2-0 and you legitimately control your own destiny for the first time that Norvell has gotten here. And I think that's one reason why he and some of the other coaches were pushing those guys so hard out there today, because they haven't been in this moment. And the guys that have, it was 3 years ago. So this is a huge moment for Florida State. They don't want to go into Louisville and collapse again like they did in 2020. And it seems like Louisville had very high expectations coming into the season, but lose 31-7 to Syracuse. Malik Cunningham didn't have a very good game, threw 2 interceptions. The offensive line was pretty porous, which
he had 2 fumbles as well.
Well, there you go. Their offensive line wasn't very good, so Florida State's defensive line has to be licking their chops. They did have a good day during practice on Wednesday. So it's just important now to respond over the next week for FSU as they get ready for that big road game. And to their credit, they're starting those early preparations. We're already hearing the crowd noise back. It's going to be a big environment up there in Louisville, and it should be an exciting game for Florida State to try and get off to a 3-0 start.
And Louisville has to play UCF this weekend, which is no slouch opponent. We're going to see how that Louisville team responds because they got absolutely slapped by Syracuse, which it's Syracuse. I'm pretty sure I said 2 weeks ago wouldn't be surprised if Babers got fired 4 weeks into the season and their first game they beat Louisville 31.
He's saving it. He's saving his job, baby.
But the one thing with Louisville, Malik Cunningham's such a dynamic running threat, and he's given it to Florida State a couple times. And we saw this past weekend with LSU, Jaden Daniels kept LSU in the game with his legs. That's something Florida State's going to have to work on this next week and a half. If you can make Malik Cunningham beat you through the air, you have to do it. You can't let it be like Jaden Daniels, where he's leading the team in rushing. What did Daniels have with 114 rushing yards? Yeah, that's something that's got to get cleaned up, whether it's putting Jamie Robinson on him in its spy, whether it's Deloach, Bethune, whoever. Someone's got to keep an eye on him the entire game.
I think that's the benefit of having a bye week now, and then you get some more preparation for Louisville next week, because we saw what Jaden Daniels did with his legs against Florida State. He made some dynamic plays on the ground, and it was just because Florida State's defenders made a couple of mistakes. I mean, the very first play, Jaden Daniels scrambles out for, I think, 25 yards, and it was just because Verse got caught inside instead of outside with the contain, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. The linebackers got caught a couple times looking. I think they dropped McClendon into coverage on the last drive of the game, and then he got caught as well, which, I mean, credit to Jaden Daniels, because he did make a couple of shifty moves, and he was a dynamic runner. Malik Cunningham is definitely on a similar level with the way that he can get it done on the ground, and Florida State's going to need to be ready for it.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where if Louisville loses to UCF this weekend, you're going to possibly be facing a desperate team at home on a Friday night at a place where we've had some weird things happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how Louisville responds this weekend. Last thing you want is a team that's got nothing to lose when you go up there.
Yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye on that game this upcoming weekend as Florida State has a bye week. Louisville will travel down to Orlando. This game will be played on Friday night at 7:30. So I know a lot of Florida State fans, including us, will be tuned to the TV to see how that game ends up going, because Louisville has got to respond after a really poor showing. And Malik Cunningham there, got to respond. So we'll see what the Cardinals look like. True. I mean, going into an 0-2 start to the season. And you also think now Jordan Travis going back to his old stomping grounds. We always forget that that's where he came from. Going back to his old stomping grounds next Friday night in Louisville. So maybe some revenge game there for Jay Trav, a guy that has improved immensely. So that's a good storyline to cover going into next week. One last thing I wanted to bring up before we hop off of here tonight, recruiting, because that was the immediate focus for Coach Norvell after practice. I know from a few recruits doing interviews saying that there was a lot of contact and there was some contact from the coaches afterwards. What was the kind of thoughts that you got, Dustin? I know that you were texting around and getting some info from some of them. You had 5-star Hakeem Williams, obviously, in attendance. You also had 2024 running back Cam Davis there, too, along with some other recruits across the country. Overall feeling from what you heard from some of these recruits, because there's some big-time commitment dates coming up on this month.
It's buzzing on the recruiting trail, and Florida State, they wasted no time getting back to work after the win over LSU. I mean, shortly after it went final, the recruiting staff was already making calls to recruits across the country, and the assistant coaches have gotten in on it as well. And, especially the commitments, they're very excited to see Florida State get this win. Defensive end Lamont Green Jr., the legacy commit, said absolutely amazing. Defense played great. Verse was amazing. Jordan Travis looked like a way better quarterback than last year. The offensive line was solid. My heart kind of dropped towards the end. Overall, great game for us Noles, and I think we would agree. I think every FSU fan's heart started to drop in those final seconds. And yeah, just continuing on, like you said, Cam Davis said that was a very great game. I'm very excited about this season. The team played through some adversity with a lot of the calls made and competed at a high level. Camden Fryer, another legacy commit for Florida State. Man, I love it. It was an awesome game. The guys fought till the end. So impressed with Florida State right now. And then you've got high-profile offensive line target, DJ Chester, who will be on an unofficial visit to Florida State later this month when the Seminoles take on Boston College. So that's a great win for them and a great way to finish. And it seems like Florida State, they are surging with Chester right now. And you go over to Hakeem Williams, I was told by some close to his camp, they were very impressed by Florida State's win in New Orleans. And you got a decision coming up here for Hakeem in the next couple of weeks. He's going to visit Pittsburgh and Texas A&M prior to making that decision. But, right now, from my point of view, Florida State is in the driver's seat to land this commitment from Hakeem Williams, which would absolutely be huge. He's the top offensive target remaining for FSU in the class of 2023. And this is a guy, a 5-star prospect, one of the top players in the country, one of the top receivers in the entire class. You bring him in, it just generates some momentum for that Tribe 23 class. And you might have some guys who weren't necessarily considering Florida State before that start looking over at the Noles if they bring someone like that in. Kind of like a Travis Hunter like last year.
You can't say that name.
Well, as long as it works out in the end.
Yeah, that's one thing, at least with Hakeem Williams recruitment. No matter where he commits in a few weeks, I don't think that recruitment's fully over yet because he does still intend on making visits, but that could change after his commitment. We'll see, but that seems to be the game plan from his camp. That's a really, really impressive player. And from what I saw in that LSU game and knowing Hakeem was there and Norvell calling some shots and explosive plays and going for the dagger a few times, that intrigues me if I'm a guy that I know that I can play well at that wide receiver position. So a nice showing for Florida State, at least offensively, to show, hey, like you said, D-Lou, J-Trav improving, getting there. Depends on if we see him next year in Garnet Gold or not. They're going to continue to try to get that offensive weapons around whoever that is going to be at the quarterback helm. So, and that's going to be a big question mark too. And we'll see how transparent Jordan Travis will be and what his plan will be for 2023. But you got to like, though, what you have and that there's still eligibility for J-Trav to come back if there does seem to be a plan there. So.
And it's not just Hakeem, other skill players around the country and other high profile targets. They wanted to see this Florida State offense become more dynamic as far as putting the ball in the air and seeing what this revamped wide receiving core and the improvements of Jordan Travis could really be on the football field. So for Florida State, they only threw it 15 times with Jordan Travis last week, but still he was able to go 11 of 15 and had a decent game. But then to come in, do it prime time against LSU, hit the flea flicker, hit a couple other plays. And I think when recruits go and look at that game, they see the way that Jordan Travis has matured and the way that he's operating now on third down and how he's he's using his legs to make plays downfield rather than just tucking off and scrambling. It shows the development that this coaching staff has been able to make with Travis over the last couple of years that they've been here. And I think that's something that people are taking notice of.
I'm going to give him a second shout out of the night, but shout out to Tony Tokar's first year quarterbacks coach, doing a great job there of getting Jordan Travis developed and continuing to improve him, and to stay in that pocket like he's been doing has been a really fun thing to watch. No matter if you're an FSU fan or college player, or college fan, watching him improve has been fun. So I think across the country, nationwide, a lot of people tweeting it's fun to watch Jordan Travis, and sure enough, it was on Sunday night when Florida State took down LSU 24-23. That's going to wrap up tonight's show. A little bit shorter than usual. We'll be back next Wednesday to preview Florida State versus Louisville. That game is going to be on Friday night, so we're going to make sure we get you guys all the coverage you need for that. So we'll have a preview, and then we'll most likely have an instant reaction after that matchup where Florida State will go up to Louisville and make the travel there on its first true away road game against a team that might be 0-2 when the Noles rolling in town. 0-2 versus 2-0. So as always, you can listen to podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify.
Real quick before we hop off here, because I see people talking about it in the comments, but I know there was a report earlier today about 2023 linebacker setting a commitment date for September 20th, and I traded a couple messages with Blake earlier this afternoon once that report came out, and he told me nothing planned out for it yet. So it's not official yet, but I'm trying to plan it out. So there is a possibility that Nicholson makes a commitment later this month, but it's not a firm date just yet that will be on September 20th. So we'll continue to monitor that.
And I also saw a lot of comments about the jacket. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, VZ coming in with the swag, man. When Florida State goes 2-0, he starts bringing out the fire, huh?
I mean, I wear jackets to work all the time. I've got like 4 or 5 vintage jackets in the closet that I'm trying to expand if I can find them for good prices. But broke this one out today. Got some comments on it. People been commenting on it in the chat. I appreciate it.
I am glad, though, because I do need to put in here our record on this show for the season so far. Logan Robinson, 2-0. Dustin Lewis, 1-1. And Austin VZ, 1-1. But I know y'all are going to be like, oh, my God, who cares, whatever. VZ did break his 0-9 streak of attending games.
What's more important is I broke the streak, all right? Damn it. It's more important.
Oop, I'm on the clock on my draft right now, and that's an easy pick. Najee Harris, sign me up, baby. MVP of the season.
No one
Anyways.
cares. Let's talk about my curse being broken.
Sorry. Your curse is broken?
Talked about on the instant reaction. I hadn't seen us win a game as a media member in 3 years. And we made it. We're here.
Everybody in the chat is happy for you. Everybody in the chat is happy.
So happy.
We were very, because when I got to that stadium, I almost got close to just locking the door and not letting Austin in, just to help everyone here. I mean, someone has to do it. Take one for the team for us, Austin, and keep you in the parking garage. But we let you in. We felt good. And so it was definitely a fun trip for all of us to get over there in New Orleans and have a good time. And we got to meet. And shout out to, I want to say real quick, shout out to all of y'all that we got to meet out there. I mean, there was numerous people. I feel bad, though, if you met me on Saturday night. I probably don't remember what you look like, what your name is, or I don't even remember what I was doing or where I was walking.
Lucky for you, I remember everybody because I was sober, taking care of Logan, just like the spring game. So appreciate it.
Yeah, we made it back nice and safe thanks to Austin holding my hand, bringing me back from the casino after 9 hours of drinking. But
3 a.m.
Yeah, that was tough. I don't think I went to bed until 4:30, and I slept 4 hours.
I didn't fall asleep until 4, and then I had to be up 4 hours later for a work meeting. So that was fun.
Ugh, no thanks. Yeah. No thanks at all. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Miss Carol. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. Enjoy the college football weekend. Also, NFL starting tomorrow night. Go Steelers. And we will be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, previewing Florida State at Louisville. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.